So we're going to take a look at linear equations. And so we're going to be able to translate a verbal equation into symbols and solve real-world problems. So there are some steps we can utilize as given on this slide. So we can actually equip our students with a series of steps that helps them complete solving word problems. Go ahead and pause the video and take note of these steps and possibly write them down so you can use them throughout the problem. I would also suggest taking a screen capture of this screen and the next one that will help you understand how to represent addition and subtraction within equations and then multiplication and division within equations. So let's put this all together and work on translating each of these verbal statements into symbols. So 14 times the number would be translated to 14x. Now, we did not write the multiplication symbol because if we're using a variable, we just write them next to each other and that implies multiplication. So a number divided by 7, where this gets students tripped up is they don't know where to put the 7 in the top or the bottom. So if it's divided by 7, the 7 goes at the bottom of the fraction. 10 more than the product of 8 and a number. Just like in the order of operations, multiplication supersedes addition and subtraction, that applies to translating these as well. So the product of 8 and a number first has to be done, so we get 8x. And if it's 10 more, we're going to add 10 to the 8x. And then 3 less than 4 times the number. So again, multiplication supersedes. 4 times the number is 4x, and if it's 3 less, I would take away 3. And then 6 times the sum, now this is where it gets interesting, of a number in 18. Because it's 6 times the sum, that's implying that I'm doing the sum in parentheses, and I would have 6 times x plus 18 because it's times the sum and not times a variable plus 18. If I want to solve some of the basic translation problems, like if 8 times the number plus 3 is 27, find the number. So first I'm going to write down what's relevant and following my steps. So I have 8 times the number plus 3 is 27. Then I'm going to use a variable to recognize the unknown, and I'm going to write it as an equation, which would be 8x plus 3 equals 27. To solve that equation, I'm going to follow my typical linear rules. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 8, and that gives me x equals 3. To check my work, I'll go back to the original equation and do 8 times 3, which is 24. And when you add 3, you get the 27 that was needed. So here's another example of a problem. This is a word problem that's going to involve a contract negotiation. Take a minute and pause the video to read through the question. Now, the way that we're going to solve this question is using the steps that were given at the beginning of the PowerPoint. We're going to take the relevant information and identify it. Then we're going to use the variable to represent the offer, because that offer could be different values. Since there are numbers in millions, we're going to say x millions. We're not going to type in all those zeros. Then we're going to translate it into the equation 2x plus 1 equals 18. And we're going to solve that like normal, where we subtract 1 from both sides. Then we're going to divide both sides by 2, and we're going to check our answer by plugging back in for x. If I have an application to home improvement, here's another real-world example. Take a minute and read the question while pausing the video. We're going to now follow the steps that we have done repeatedly throughout the course. We're going to identify what's relevant. We're going to call the variable the length of the shorter post. We are going to translate it into a equation sentence, and then we're going to solve the equation. I need to remember that x plus x is 2 x's. And so then I set it up, I subtract 8 from both sides, and I divide both sides by 2 to get 42. Another continuation of this example would be, I need to say 42 what? 42 inches. And then I would want to plug it in and make sure that I got the answer of 92 out. Now this is the last example we're going to look at. Go ahead and pause the video so you can read the question. And then we're going to follow our 6 steps. We're going to identify the relevant information. Here we're going to use the variable D, but you could very easily use X. But usually when we have money, we're going to use D for dollar bills. And then you're going to write it out into an expression. Now, I need to realize that when I'm translating this, the value in dollars is going to be the number of quarters times 0.25. The value of the dollar bills then is going to be the D value. Then I'm going to set up my equation. I'm going to do the 0.25 times 3, which gives me 0.75. I'm going to do 0.75 plus 1, which is 1.75. And then finally, I'm going to divide both sides by 1.75 to get my final answer. Last, I will check my work and make sure that I got the correct answer.